Sometimes the people that you would think would certainly not agree with myself and some of the things that I say, and others like myself, they do the work for us and they point out exactly what it is that I've been saying. Now, this data I would not think would be, well, let me say this. Of course, it's available, but they're the ones, and that this activist group per se are the ones that are going to be highlighting this. And what we're going to discuss is this whole representation thing. And I've had this idea that this was the case. I've never looked at their reports or full reports, but I've had an idea that in media right now, in entertainment, American entertainment, you probably have an overrepresentation as it pertains to a lot of this alphabet soup stuff. And they flat out really say it. You see right here, this year, GLAAD counted 659 series regulars set to appear on scripted primetime broadcast series. Of those 70, that's 10.96% are LGBTQ. Says this has a decrease of 22 characters and a 1.3%, because there'll never be enough, by the way. There are an additional 31 LGBTQ occurring characters counted, bringing the total to 101 LGBTQ characters on broadcast, an overall decrease of 40 characters. But when you look at this, well, they pull up the reports themselves and they show everything. And you see, this is the executive summary that we kind of just read here. Says of the 596 LGBT Q characters found across all platforms, 32 of them are gendered as well. And you can see some of these orientation breakdowns of all. I mean, they give you the breakdown even to the characters themselves. You got 35% gay, you got 30% lesbian, and you got all of this sort of stuff. But things start to get really interesting when you start looking at the ranking of some of these broadcast networks by LGBT character inclusion. Okay, so obviously the CW, which we knew off rip, was going to be number one. But look at this. They're number one at 14.8%. This is a percentage of LGBTQ series regulars, of all series regulars. So not just people that are showing up there, the actual regulars, almost 15%. Guys, that is, and if you are talking about representation in like comparison to the population, all of these are overrepresentation. Even the number 5 one is at 5.6. This is not the makeup, dudes, of like the world at large. And this is what the whole reason, not hell, this is a massive overrepresentation if you include the entire world, but especially in America. This is not accurate at all. Now, here's my thing. That's the reason why they say they do all this inclusion stuff in the first place. They say they do it because, well, representing, that's the whole point, the world at large or the country at large or the geographical area at large, because these people exist and we need to show people that these people certainly exist. And they had become so obsessed. This is the reason why this report exists. They become so obsessed with like disparity or lack thereof, or, the disparity being in existence, meaning that there's not enough to their likening of people or types of people in these prime time different shows or movies or whatever it is. And as you're seeing documented, this, and by the way, if you read some of this, they're actually talking about how it's a decrease from previous years, and still you're looking at overrepresentation in comparison to that pocket to the population at large. Like even if you're talking about the American population, the world population is even less, but this is not accurate. Now, I'm not one of those that thinks any of this stuff matters. I just want to let you in on what their actual motives are, because it doesn't even make sense by their own terms. Remember, again, that's what the whole representation term comes from. But you have an overrepresentation in comparison to the population. I've said many times before, look, man, media is media. If it's solid, it's decent, people are going to gravitate towards it. And it doesn't matter all that stuff for the most part is shallow. it doesn't matter if it is solid, people are going to gravitate towards it, they're going to enjoy it. And it doesn't matter what their ethnic background, racial background, sexuality, none of that's really going to ultimately matter, because diversity in this sense, as I've always said, is a side effect. It's not anything to push for. It's not anything that is inherently good or bad. It's just a thing. So if something has a voluntarily arrived makeup of almost exclusively being of one race, right? There is nothing wrong with that, or exclusively being of a sexuality, let's say of orientation, let's say it's straight or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, that can still be a solid thing, but that's not what, like, that's what I advocate. So it doesn't matter, all this underrepresentation, overrepresentation, disparity, none of that crap matters, but it matters to them. And as they are even documenting themselves, these percentages are far too high in comparison to the population. So it's not actually representation that you're advocating. Otherwise, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's far too many, right? And if you want to look at this, I mean, they go through it in great detail. There's no way GLAAD's not somehow subsidized by, because I don't know who the hell would do this. There's no way that they're not somehow subsidized by the state in some way, shape, or form in terms of how they're getting their money, because who the hell does stuff like this? But you can see all this other gay stuff. They even break it down by way of the racial diversity in terms of their identity. You have fit half white, basically 21% being black. They even use the term Latinx. So there you have it. There's an overrepresentation of LGBTQIA plus 26123 in media right now, and that's just what their own data says. Wherever you're viewing the content, I appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, you may be interested in my comic book company, Rippaverse Comics. Our first book and campaign, ISOM #1, brought in $3.7 million with tens of thousands of satisfied customers. Visit Rippaverse.com to check out our store and stay up to date with the latest campaigns from one of the hottest new comic book companies. Also, my first big step towards a parallel economy was the development of my personal website, ericdjuly.com. This entirely replaced my Patreon. Now, if you enjoy this content, please consider becoming a member over at the website. We have an ever-expanding list of perks for various membership tiers, a forum, and a phone app. Some of these perks will even benefit you if you're fans of the Rippaverse. Anyway, I appreciate you so much for being a supporter and or customer. I even got a little love for my haters.